Welcome to our podcast. This is Barry Landis. I am today meeting and talking with Tyler Michael Smith, a local Nashville area composer. Hi, Tyler. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Barry. Thanks for having me.
I have an intro on you that I'd like to read for everybody so they have a little bit of a background. Tyler Michael Smith is a Nashville-based musician and composer who started playing piano at 5 years of age. During his teens, he began writing his own material and has since composed scores for major media companies like Sony and Coca-Cola. In addition to film work, he has toured as a keyboardist with renowned artists, including his father, Michael W. Smith, and has been nominated for Dove Awards of his own for his production across genres. Today, Tyler resides in the Nashville area with his wife and 5 children. Again, welcome, Michael. You're too young to have 5 children.
People say that. And then I revealed that I'm actually 35. We got started pretty early, though. I got married at I was 21, my wife was 19, and we didn't waste any time. So here we are with 5. Yeah.
Well, this is exciting to me. I've got 2 sons, one 36 and one 34, and neither of them have babies yet. So my wife and I are waiting on that time when we've got the little ones to hold.
Oh, it'll happen eventually. Everyone's on a different track, and it's all good.
So can I ask how many grandchildren do your mom and dad have?
It's a little bit difficult to keep count at this point, but I think we're at 17. Either 17 and one coming, because my sister, we just found out was pregnant. So I think it actually might be. We might be going into 18 now. So
well,
it's rare that anyone is not pregnant in my family. So
and that's
how we go.
That family portrait has to be an amazing production to pull off.
It is. I mean, you get what you get. You know, it's hard to get the perfect picture, but it's beautiful chaos. We love it.
I love that. I so love that, and my wife is so jealous right now. Michael, Michael, I did it again. I knew okay. I was going to do
I'll
that.
answer to both.
Will you? Tyler, well, you know, if you didn't have the Michael in your name, I might not do it as much. But where did the 3 name thing? Do you just have you always done that? Have you always done 3 names?
It's funny, I haven't. You know, I started it as just Tyler Smith, and it was my my father-in-law Steve gave me the idea to do that. He said, I think it would be more recognizable, and people would. I just think it would be better for your career to go by the 3 names. That's kind of what I did, which is not too different from what my dad did when he was Michael Smith. I believe the story goes there was another Michael Smith writer at the time, and he was, you know, he threw the W in there just to be different, and obviously it stuck, and that became the artist name and everything. But
a lot of people think his last name is W. Michael W, right?
Michael W, exactly. Yeah. So MWS, he goes by many names.
Well, yeah, and it made me think of you know, there's some great composers, James Newton Howard for one. The 3 name thing works really well, so I like that. So you started out playing piano very, very early. How did that come about? What was the influence there on age 5 starting to play piano?
You know, I think probably just started as curiosity. You know, we always had a piano in the home, which is not surprising. And I was always surrounded by music. It was a musical home because of what my father did for a living. So I think part of it was there was just an atmosphere of music in my home constantly. And it just was something I couldn't help. I think all of my siblings have an appreciation, at least, for music. A lot of us are musical. I'm the only one, I guess, that's gone on to pursue it professionally as a career. But it's just something that was always part of our our home. So I don't know, I couldn't get away from it.
Were you, I don't want to say forced, but were you encouraged to take lessons, and did you?
I did take lessons, yes. Encouraged, yes. I will say one thing my parents never did was try to force any of us, with our careers. They never pressured me to go do music because my dad did it. They were always very respectful to, what we were supposed to do, what God was calling each of us to. So I think that I'm thankful for that, because sometimes I have to think back, am I only doing this because people are expecting it of me, or is it something that truly, I feel called to do? And it is the latter. So I never really felt that pressure, actually.
So you never felt the pressure, but how did it influence you? How did it give you any vision into what you wanted to do based on what you saw him doing?
Yeah, it did in ways. I mean, my dad and I are alike in many ways. I think a lot of our tastes are similar, the kind of music we like to listen to. I grew up listening to scores. My dad did too. Honestly, he's released at least, 2 instrumental albums. He has this, there's this composer instrumental side of him that's so prevalent, and something that he's always loved. So I think that was something that we both kind of bonded over. I mean, we always, we grew up listening to John Williams, just like every other, I'm sure, American, but that is one area where I think that there was an influence. It was a positive influence. It was both a shared interest and a love that we both had for film music.
Yeah. So you have written for many different kinds of projects, commercials and films. What are the challenges when you're switching back and forth? I mean, the way I think of you can get a call to produce something, to write something, to compose music for film, to, how do you approach those things? What are there challenges involved in that? Do you have to get in a different headspace each time?
Absolutely. Depending on what it is, for me personally, and this might sound weird to some people, but I have a harder time with shorter form projects. Even just a song, for example. My wife is actually a very talented songwriter and singer, and we actually work together. So anytime I need, music lyrics to a song, she's kind of the spearheader of that, which is awesome because we get to work together. But I've found with film, I have an entire, I have about 40 to 50 minutes of time I can tell a story. When you're working on a shorter thing, you have a shorter amount of time to make that impact. And for me, it's easier to gradually tell a story than condense it into something smaller. Not that I can't do that. It's more challenging to me, though, to work on the shorter form type stuff, which I know to some people maybe it's easier, but that's just me personally.
So you like the kind of like the longer form to explore.
I do, yeah. Mm-hmm. And because the score runs parallel to the story, right? You're telling a story through music, and I think that's something I just really enjoy doing. And it's there's a lot of exploration and a lot of unexpected twists and turns that happen that I enjoy a lot. So
this might be a stupid question, but when you do your film work, do you get a real opportunity to literally see the film finished before you start working on the music? Or is everybody sort of in this, my sense is it's a little bit chaotic to bring a film in for a landing and you're working on parallel tracks, maybe,
right.
Maybe tell me about that.
Yeah, definitely. Every project is different. I'll say that. I've worked on projects where they have the entire thing assembled and it's locked and they just need music. And usually that's a short turnaround. They need it in a month or something like that. I've worked on projects where nothing has been filmed. I've only read a script or read a treatment and they say, hey, we're interested in hiring you to do the music. I much prefer that, to be honest. I like to get involved early. It gives me time to kind of really get into the director's head and the story and what he's envisioning. And get a feel for things. I'm a big theme writer, so I like to kind of write those themes early on and weave them into the score as opposed to kind of doing it all at once, if that makes sense. That's my preference. It doesn't always happen that way, but that's what I prefer for sure.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So, you've also been a keyboard player for other artists. Being on stage night after night, was there a particular time when touring was really fun, or maybe was a disaster and you never wanted to do that again? I don't know.
I guess a little bit of both, maybe. We all have our stories, I'm sure. I mean, there's an aspect of it that's great. And then there's also the people don't see the behind the scenes. It's not all glamorous. It's not all I think what people think it to be. But I mean, I'm thankful for my experiences that I've had. I've actually originally played for my dad, and then I went on to play with Guy Penrod of the Gaither Vocal Band. I did a For Him reunion tour, if you remember them from back in the 90s. They kind of got together for like a 25-year reunion tour. I got to go with them. Now, more recently, my wife and I have kind of been stepping into the artist kind of territory and been working together on music. So we actually did a tour in Italy at the end of last year with an artist, with an Italian artist, actually. It was a church tour. We did worship and hymns, and it was a great experience, amazing. So there's talks of doing some of that here. So that's something we're looking into. But we have 5 kids. Trying to juggle all that and balance it is I think the challenge. So we're just going about it prayerfully and walking through the door when it's a green light and stopping if it's red. So
fantastic. Oh, I can't wait to see what's up with that. So I'm interested specifically now in the composing and scoring for films. Have you found any rhythms or rituals or practices or habits that you find are good for you to kind of get your head in the zone for a film when they come to you for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked this question a number of times, like, what is your strategy, or what is your work, your workflow and everything? And it just I would just say, like, every project is a little bit different. Typically, a lot of times it comes down to me just sitting down at the piano and experimenting and just writing what I'm feeling. So a lot of those times those ideas get completely thrown out, but it's just writing something, I think, is kind of a starting point. I remember hearing a quote of John Williams saying, "I don't have time to get writer's block," because when you're under the gun, it's like, well, who cares if you don't feel inspired? We need to put music down. So there's an element of that that's helpful. So yeah, for me, this is one technique that I've used on a number of films, which has proven pretty helpful. A lot of times, I know that Hans Zimmer actually does something similar to this, but I'll watch a film, whatever the format it's in. If they have the whole cut, if it's a rough cut, or even if it's treatment, reading a script, I'll sit down, I'll write maybe like a 3-minute piece of music that is inspired by what I read or watched. On a number of occasions, a lot of those ideas that I've written down make it into the film and become themes that are, reprised throughout the movie. So that's one way of looking at it, is coming up with kind of, I think Hans Zimmer calls it a sketch. So you're writing a musical sketch of, what you're inspired by, basically, and seeing if any of those ideas stick, basically. It's kind of my one strategy that I've used at times.
That's really good. I've actually wondered, this thought came to me when we were preparing to talk to you. Do you ever get tunes or hooks in your mind that you think, ooh, that would be good for something, and then put it in some kind of a bank that you can go back to? Do you ever just sort of bank ideas somehow musically? That's something I feel like I used to do and should do more often. I feel like a lot of times I'm in the middle of working on something, so it's always
the ideas that are going on in my head are usually relating to the project. So that's a good idea, and I'm probably going to start doing that more often. I did have that did happen to me recently. It was a project that I was working on, but I hadn't even started on it. And I remember I was walking through my house and this hook just hit my head, and I ran straight to the studio and put it down. And that is the thing. If it's, a lot of times those things are gone if you don't grab them. So.
Oh yeah. You can really be inspired by something and then not remember it later.
Exactly. So I do think it's important to get it down somehow. And there's plenty of ideas I've let fly by that I regret. So, I mean, I
have been known to grab my phone and the voice memo thing and just do a little something into it so I can just come back to it sometime, just remember that idea maybe.
Right.
And then I find out, oh, you were inspired because you were listening to that and you're remembering that hook. And so it wasn't original at all. That's not good.
Right.
Don't write a song off of somebody else's song like that. So you brought along a little bit of music. I wanted to talk about some of the things you've composed, and you've got a couple, one from Washington's Armor and then one from a Karen Kingsbury film that you're working on.
That's right.
Do you mind talking about how they're different, how you sort of worked with the two of them, and maybe we'll play a little bit of clips as you set each of those up for us.
Sure. No, definitely. And this is where it comes down to, I think, like I think an aspect that we haven't talked about yet, but the importance of the director composer relationship. It's so important. And for me, like, that's ultimately at the end of the day, I'm serving their vision. And so if it's not in line with that, I'm kind of failing. It's like we have to be on the same page, which it can be hard to do because a lot of times they might not have the language for what they're wanting. It might be very limited language, and as a composer, you kind of have to learn to translate really what they're saying. There's been rare occasions when I've worked with very musical directors who are very good at speaking that language, but that is one thing as a composer, you kind of have to, it's like an art you have to learn almost of, okay, what are the director's feeling this, like, how do I translate that into music? And with, I'll use the watch.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to stay on that for 1 second because, I've had a career in music, and you do learn a language in that career that outsiders go, what do you mean by make it warmer? Like, there's sort of a glossary, right? Mm-hmm. That if you're in the biz, you understand what colors mean or what these funny words mean, but you get it, right? You get it in the studio. You can say, make it grittier, and then you know what to do with it, right? And that's what a great insight you're pointing out is to being able to translate what the director is saying. He probably doesn't know that glossary the way you do, right. but he's saying words, and you're going, okay, I think what he's saying is, I need it more like this.
Right, exactly. And it's a hard thing to sometimes even put words to, even musically. Like, I mean, music is a universal language, so it really is sometimes hard to translate into English or into any language what it is. But when it's there, when it's there because you feel it. So wow. That's part of the mystery of it, which I love, and I think it's what keeps me so
great
interested, and it's just the curiosity and exploration that I love.
Really good.
Yeah.
So show us these two pieces that we're looking at here.
Sure. So I'll use the Washington's Armor example, I think, first, because this was a really unique project. Actually started as a mini series and kind of evolved. COVID kind of interrupted the whole thing, and it evolved into a series of 3 films, so into a trilogy. So they released the first installment called The Journey, basically. It's about the life of George Washington pre-Revolutionary War. So it's when he was still with the British, about the French and Indian War, kind of the the start of that whole spectacle. So when I was talking to the director, Tammy Lane, about the score, she went in kind of a different direction than I thought she typically would. You can treat, like, historical films can be treated in multiple ways. Obviously, you can be very conservative and traditional with them, or you can be a little edgier. And she kind of wanted to go edgier on this. So, I mean, there's guitars, there's lots of drums, epic, like more modern, kind of Hans Zimmer-esque production. So, I mean, it was fun though. It was a fun piece to score to tackle because it involves so many elements. So
Nice.
it was fun.
Let's listen to that.
Yeah, we can listen to it.
And then let's go ahead and talk about the romantic drama that you're working on too, with
Yes.
Karen Kingsbury,
Yes.
and how you're working between those two worlds.
Sure. Yeah, on a much different note. Yeah, this is a project actually that we just wrapped. I mean, I wrapped the score the end of the year. The film is actually releasing on April 2nd, and it's a beautiful film. They did an amazing job. They've shot locally. If you know who Karen Kingsbury is, she's a very well-known author, and she's recently started a production company where she's basically adapting her novels into films, and this is their first film, basically. It's called Someone Like You, and it is a romantic drama. So much, I took a much different approach with this one. It's to use some of those words we described earlier. It's a lot warmer. It's a lot more, but there's moments there's some difficult subject matter too. So it's not all rosy and stuff. There's some, there's more depth, I think, to the score. It's not super light, not in a comedic way, but in a very romantic, heartfelt way. So you guys can take a listen to that.
Okay, great. And how do you, how do you get in the mood to write a romantic drama like that? I mean, do you take your wife on a date and try to, you ask a lot of women what they think and like, or do you just kind of know where to go on that?
Honestly, my wife is one of my greatest assets when it comes to this kind of thing, because she will give me her honest opinion on pretty much anything that I write. So oftentimes I'll ask her, is this working? Like, what do you think and stuff.
Oh.
So she's been great in that way. But I mean, it's hard to describe. Like, a lot of times it's like visually what I'm seeing. Even like I said earlier, even if I hear a treatment of the story and like what the heart of the story is. And honestly, I'll be honest, this film took a little bit to nail down the tone. Honestly, I had a lot of talks with the director and exactly where we were wanting to take it. How light it wanted to be, but there's those darker elements. So blending the two in a way that wouldn't be, they didn't want to make it too dark. They didn't want to make it too light either. So it was kind of finding that balance between the two. So that's where it comes down to that relationship with the director, is really getting that insight from them on what their vision is for the film.
And that's another Tyler, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Tyler Russell. That's right. Yeah. And he was fantastic to work with. We had a really great time. We actually became very good friends. So it was a good experience.
Two young guys taking over the movie world. I like that. Like that a lot. I want to jump quickly to, I'm fascinated with the world of composers. You've mentioned a couple. Do you have I don't want to pin you down on an all-time favorite, but if you had two or three that you say were your influences, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to, it's kind of hard to not be influenced by John Williams. He was the music of my childhood, pretty much, and a lot of other people's. His themes are so iconic and so just ingrained. You remember, the thing about that I love about him is, like, you hear 3 or 4 notes and you know what it is. You know what movie it's from. You know
Right.
Exactly. I think that he was, like, just a master of that, of themes. And on the other end of the spectrum, I would credit Hans Zimmer, though, because I would say John Williams, in a more traditional way, is just a master of the orchestra and a master of traditional film scoring. Hans Zimmer is the one who pushes the envelope, and who experiments with sound and very unconventional in his writing process. And I appreciate that too, because I think we are kind of in that territory now where people aren't always wanting super clean cut traditional, they're wanting this blend of really what film music has evolved into, is oftentimes what people are asking for, so you kind of have to learn, I feel like, both languages in a way.
Yeah, that's very good. And it's sort of, it's kind of amazing, John Williams' sort of staying power, right?
Mm-hmm.
For however long, man, it's been at least 50 years. The guy's been just knocking it out. I didn't realize how big a deal Ennio Morricone was until I put together all the spaghetti westerns with The Mission and realized those were both made by the same guy. And then, discovering all the stuff that he has done over the 50 years or 60 years. It's amazing how long some of these people have been able to be a real difference maker. Mm-hmm. in film scoring, in composing. I mean, I know there's a lot of people trying it, but there's only, a couple of dozen that do it at the very top of the game, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, no, it's true. Absolutely.
I'm not sure why that is. I don't know. I think whether that's just they have an ability to understand. I loved your thought that you have to be able to interpret what the director is seeing. And somehow some people have a really effective ability to be able to determine a tune and the director loving that. Right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I would say, I think there's a couple elements to what make, why we have these, like, it's only a select group of people, I feel like, that make it to that level. I think one is, yes, they have learned the art of interpreting. They have also very, like, dedicated to their craft and in a very profound way. But I would say also, I hope I'm not quoting or I hope this is not misinformation, so forgive me if it is, but I believe that John Williams submitted a piece, or he was, I guess maybe was hired to write the theme song for Gilligan's Island. I don't know if you know this story or not.
No.
Well, it got rejected. And, so now we have the one that we all remember. But I think there's an element of not giving up too that these guys have, that had, because, like, I mean, imagine John Williams got discouraged and goes, well, I guess I'm not going to do that again. he obviously didn't, things worked out pretty good for him. So I think there's another element to this, that we have to learn to overcome disappointment, because it's going to happen. It's happened to me before. I've been let go on a project before, and we have to like not take it too personally and keep moving forward. And I think that's probably another element that we need to get a hold of. It's really hard as an artist, because a lot of times we identify with our art, and I say, it's what we do. It's not really who we are. If you don't have a deeper foundation than your art, then someone's rejection is going to crush you completely. So,
wow. I, again, am amazed at your ability to tap into a balanced view at your age. That doesn't come super early for a lot of people. It takes them a lifetime to figure something like that out.
Well, trust me, it took me some time to figure that out too. But I'm still figuring it out. It's not, I do, this is one thing I would say to people who are in this field. I mean, whatever lane you're in, as an artist, you gotta get your identity rooted in something deeper than your art. I mean, this is a message that I feel really strongly about. If it's not in Christ, it's going to crumble in the end, no matter how great it may be. It's
wow.
It's reality.
Amen.
So
what a great word. I really appreciate that, Tyler. So let's just talk a little bit more about you've gotten nominated for Dove Awards.
I got nominated for a Dove Award, yeah, to be clear.
Okay. A Dove Award. You got nominated once. Which a lot of people don't. Is it you going for more of those, or is it more like you know what, I've got a pathway, and if that comes along, fine. If it doesn't, what are your thoughts on that?
When I think about that, like, and the whole, there's nothing wrong with awards and stuff like that, but I think I almost feel like, and this is the case with film awards, with music awards. I think ultimately these things we're working on are a collaborative effort, and it's hard for me to feel like I can take the credit for everything. You know what I mean? And so it makes me slightly uncomfortable to accept an award like that, because I know how much work everyone put into it. It wasn't just me. It was my wife, Sarah, wrote a lot of the songs that were on that project that I produced, that I was nominated for. She's amazing, and I feel like she deserves credit. The musicians that played on it, the singers, and that's the case in a film too, right? Even the score, it's like, I'm just a part of this whole puzzle. It is a collaborative effort. Even the director, I don't think, could take full credit. It's like, you have a team around you, you pull this thing off. I've always said, like, when a film gets made, it's a miracle. I always feel like that at the end of it. It's like, there's so many moving pieces and so many parts that go into it. So I'm not necessarily going for awards, but I'll, humbly accept them if they come. I'm not against them. I just kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah. I think that's very good. Talking more about your family, big family, 5 children, a wife. You got a lot of people to balance, in addition to working and keeping up with everything that you're trying to keep up with. Have you learned any insider information on how the work-life balance? Do you have a schedule that you try to keep, or do you just sort of go with the flow every day? Have you learned to live in that chaos a little bit?
Yeah, no, I've done both, and I feel like there are seasons when when something, you have to get something done. It's like you're going to be putting in extra hours when you need to, and all that. I get that. Obviously, I'm in an industry that is an industry of deadlines, and it's just kind of the way it goes. But I've really tried over the years to be more intentional with my schedule, with my time, because the family time is so important to me. Time with my wife is so important, and it's not worth sacrificing. If your career really is taking over every part of your life, I think you need to reevaluate. So that's something it's been a hard thing to balance. I think everyone struggles with that to a degree, because we're doing it to provide for these people we love, but it's like, if you never see them,
wow.
It's hard to find that balance. Sometimes it really is.
Yeah.
So.
I wanted to also ask you about whether you have found any hacks or shortcuts for filmmakers when it comes to the music process. And almost instantly, my mind thinks of what's going on AI these days. And I wonder, maybe you just have an opinion about the effect of AI. I mean, everybody thinks, well, maybe I'll just go get some music made up quick and easy by AI or something like that. You have any thoughts on whether AI is going to take over the music business, or if it's a passing fad, or maybe there are ways to utilize some of that for our own production, for our own
Sure.
betterment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I have mixed feelings about it, because I think to a degree, like a lot of us are using AI tools, whether we realize it or not. Even some of the software I have, utilizes some of that to a degree, I feel like. And I think it's just if everything is eventually going to go in that direction, I think we're going to feel that missing piece. You know what I'm saying? Because it can only really give you what it has, right? It can only recreate what is fed into it. And so where's the inspiration, and where is, when we run out of ideas, you can't manufacture inspiration. And that's a human thing. That's something God created. So I don't know. It's a weird place we're in right now, I feel like.
Yeah, I love that answer. And that's the difference in what God created, right?
Right.
When he inspired us by breathing into us, there's a little difference there. Some would say that there will come a day when we've finally breathed every idea we can into a machine. I'm not sure that's true. It's probably an infinite ability in the human condition to manufacture another idea that hadn't been thought of before.
I mean, absolutely. And I'll quote my manager, Greg Ham. He's if you look at the Bible, it's like, music's not going anywhere. It's going into eternity. So this is something that this is one of the things I think is so fulfilling about working in this industry, is we are in a way working in an eternal industry, because it's something it's not music itself is not really going anywhere. It's going to be with us, and it's been with us since the beginning. So I don't know. That's something that I always think about, and I just don't think AI is going to be able to compete with that.
And can I tell you, having had personally a period of time where I was very close to dying, and had an organ transplant, and have come out of that and through that, there was a reminder in all of that for me that as I lay in the hospital room, I was humming and singing, and it was healing to me. And I think God created us with the vocal cords and with the mind to create tunes for him. And I think, as Psalm says, if we don't do it, he's going to cause the rocks and the trees to cry out to him. And I think there's something uniquely given to humans to create music. whether it's good or bad, whether people think, well, I'm
Right.
not a good singer or I can't play or whatever, it's still that expression out of the human condition that I think God wants to hear from us.
I agree completely. That's definitely true. And that's where I struggle with the AI thing is I think music is such a human thing that I just don't think it's going to be fully be able to be replicated by a machine. You can't really manufacture something God created like that. So that's just my personal take on it, but not that it can't be used as a tool. I think there are tools that you can be used, but if we keep it as a tool and not as a replacement, I think that's the goal. So
good point. Maybe last question. We never know. So got any advice? I know you've probably been hit up by young people coming out of high school, wanting to get into the music business, whatever. You had to find your own journey. You had to sort of figure it out for yourself. What would you say, to somebody who's, and this is a loaded question because, how good are they? All of that, I don't know. But if their passion is there to get involved in music, whether it's Christian music or whether it's country or, pop or whatever, you have any thoughts, any advice for them?
I think that, the passion is definitely a key and I have to remind myself to go back to that place because there was a time in my life when I was not doing this as a career. I actually didn't ever think I would do it as a career. It was just something I loved. And I think that's the most meaningful music I feel like comes out of that place versus this is my job. I got to go to work. I got to make music, So, it's hard to disconnect the two, but sometimes we do. And I just think that if it's inside of you and you feel like it's something that God has called you to, I think you got to follow it. You got to pursue it. And once again, I think I said earlier that disappointment is something that's going to happen that you have to overcome. And it's something that can't, if it crushes you, then maybe that wasn't the dream. Maybe you're supposed to do something else. But I think that we have to learn to get beyond that because we live in this industry is very based on people's opinion of us and what they think of our music and stuff like that. And I think we need to maintain that momentum regardless of, I think, what people think. That's one piece of advice I'd give. I could give some more, but it's just.
Well,
yeah.
We'll do that in part 2.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Look, this has been great, Tyler. Thank you for spending your time and taking these questions and thinking this through with us. I know it can be helpful to a lot of people. We are sending this to a number of filmmakers, so I'm hopeful that they will be inspired and we'll get some ideas, and some of them might want to reach out to you and see if you can help them on a project. I hope that happens. And I just appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barry. I appreciate it. It's been a great time with you here. So thank you. Love what you're doing.
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.